Ultra-conservatism, a primer. Ultra-conservative politics is like that friend who always takes things way too far. Extreme interpretations of traditional values, a deep resistance to change, and a yearning for an idealized past. This ideology thrives on fear of the unknown and anything that challenges the established order. It's like wanting to go back to a simpler time, even if it wasn't great for everyone. Ultra-conservatism often wraps itself in the flag and claims the moral high ground. It positions itself as the protector of tradition and the true voice of the people. But it has the potential to erode the foundations of a free society, chipping away at civil liberties and suppressing dissent. It's about recognizing the slippery slope from extreme conservatism to authoritarianism. Okay, buckle up, because this is where things start to get real. One of the first casualties in the march towards authoritarianism is often our fundamental freedoms. Think freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, all that good stuff in the Constitution that they made a whole musical about. Ultra-conservative movements have a knack for painting dissent as unpatriotic or even dangerous. They love to throw around labels like radical, socialist, or my personal favorite, snowflake, to discredit anyone who dares to disagree with them. And it's not just about silencing opposing voices, it's about controlling the narrative. Independent media outlets are often demonized as purveyors of fake news, while state-controlled or aligned media pump out propaganda that would make even a Soviet-era apparatchik blush. This attack on a free and independent press is incredibly dangerous because it allows misinformation and disinformation to flourish. And when people are constantly bombarded with lies and half-truths, it becomes much easier to manipulate and control them. Let's talk about the media's role in this whole mess, shall we? In the age of 24/7 news cycles and social media echo chambers, the media landscape has become a breeding ground for misinformation and manipulation. Ultra-conservative movements exploit this to their advantage. Instead of engaging in good faith debates, they've mastered spinning narratives that tap into fears and prejudices. They create alternate realities where facts are whatever they say, and dissenters are labeled as the liberal elite. And let's not forget the rise of state-sponsored propaganda. We've seen this playbook in authoritarian regimes, and it's chilling to watch it unfold today. This is why a free and independent press is essential to democracy.
Now, I know what you're thinking, John. This all sounds very doom and gloom. Are you saying that every country with a conservative government is going to turn into some Orwellian dystopia? And to that I say, relax, my friend. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but I am saying we've seen this movie before, and it doesn't usually have a happy ending. Throughout history, the rise of authoritarianism has often followed a disturbingly similar pattern. It starts with sowing division and distrust in democratic institutions, then comes the demonization of opponents, followed by the erosion of civil liberties, and finally, the consolidation of power in the hands of a single ruler or party. Think about Nazi Germany or Mussolini's Italy. These regimes didn't just magically appear overnight, they were the result of years of nationalist rhetoric, scapegoating of minorities, and suppression of dissent. The point is, we can't afford to be complacent. We need to learn from history's mistakes and be vigilant in safeguarding our democratic values. Section 5, Hungary, a cautionary tale. Let's take a look at Hungary, shall we? Under Viktor Orban's leadership, the country has become a poster child for what happens when ultra-conservative policies are allowed to fester unchecked. Orban, who fancies himself a champion of illiberal democracy, has systematically dismantled Hungary's democratic institutions over the past decade. He's stacked the courts with his cronies, muzzled the press, and demonized immigrants and refugees. And here's the scary part. He's done it all while maintaining a veneer of legitimacy. Orban has been incredibly savvy at exploiting loopholes in the EU system, all the while presenting himself as the protector of Hungarian values against the evils of liberalism and globalization. Hungary serves as a stark reminder that the erosion of democracy doesn't always happen overnight. It can be a slow, insidious process that gradually chips away at our freedoms until one day we wake up and wonder how we let it get this far. Section 6. The United States, a system tested. Now let's bring this a little closer to home, shall we? The United States, the supposed beacon of democracy, has also witnessed its fair share of ultra-conservative movements throughout its history. From the McCarthy-era's Red Scare to the rise of the Tea Party and now the MAGA movement, we've seen how quickly fear and resentment can be weaponized to undermine democratic norms and institutions. The January 6th insurrection was a chilling reminder that the threat to American democracy isn't some abstract concept. It's a clear and present danger. And while the attack on the Capitol was ultimately unsuccessful, it exposed the fragility of our political system and the willingness of some to subvert the will of the people for their own political gain. The good news is that American democracy has weathered many storms throughout its history. The bad news is that we can't afford to take it for granted. We need to remain vigilant in defending our democratic values and holding our elected officials accountable.
Section 7. The erosion of trust, a dangerous trend. One of the most insidious byproducts of ultra-conservative movements is the erosion of trust. Trust in institutions, trust in experts, trust in each other. It's like they've taken a giant sledgehammer to the very fabric of society. They peddle this narrative that the system is rigged, that the media is lying to you. It's classic cult behavior. And the really messed up part is that it works. When people are bombarded with messages of fear and distrust, they start to question everything. It creates a fertile breeding ground for conspiracy theories and extremism. This erosion of trust is incredibly dangerous. Section 8. The role of education and critical thinking. So, how do we combat this toxic brew of misinformation, distrust, and division? Well, I'm not going to lie to you, it's a tall order. But I believe that education and critical thinking are our best weapons in this fight. We need to equip people with the tools to discern fact from fiction, to think critically about the information they're consuming, and to recognize propaganda and manipulation when they see it. This isn't just about rote memorization or regurgitating facts. It's about fostering a love of learning, a thirst for knowledge, and a healthy skepticism of authority. It's about teaching people to think for themselves, to question assumptions, and to engage in respectful dialogue with those who hold different views. This is going to require a significant investment in education at all levels, from early childhood to adulthood. We need to support our teachers, fund our schools, and create a culture that values knowledge and critical thinking. Section 9. The power of engagement, pushing back against the tide. Education is crucial, no doubt, but it's not enough. We also need to be actively engaged in the fight for our democracies. This isn't just about voting in elections, although that's obviously important. It's about holding our elected officials accountable, speaking out against injustice, and supporting organizations that are fighting for our rights. Get involved in local politics, contact your representatives, attend protests, donate to causes you believe in, whatever you can do to make your voice heard. And don't underestimate the power of conversation. Talk to your friends and family members who might be susceptible to ultra-conservative rhetoric. Share accurate information, challenge their assumptions, and remind them of the values that unite us. Look, I get it. It's exhausting to constantly be vigilant, to have to fact-check every tweet and news article, to argue with your uncle on Facebook. But remember, the alternative is far worse. Section 10. Conclusion: Safeguarding Democracy. So there you have it, folks. The road from ultra-conservative politics to authoritarianism is paved with the erosion of civil liberties, the suppression of dissent, and the manipulation of information. It's a slippery slope, and once you start down that path, it's incredibly difficult to turn back. But here's the good news. We're not powerless in this fight. We, the people, have the power to hold our leaders accountable, to demand better from our institutions, and to safeguard the freedoms that generations before us fought so hard to secure. It won't be easy. It will require constant vigilance, unwavering commitment, and a healthy dose of skepticism. But remember this, the future of our democracies depends on it, so let's get to work.